As you might have already noticed, we approach the topic a little differently in each part of this course. Everyone is different, and a change of perspective is needed, because we don't know which approach to the topic might work better for you. Before we go to the last part, we will try to approach the subject in very black or white, because it is worth looking at everything strongly logically, turning off emotions, and maybe this approach will help you. As you know, breakups are a very difficult topic. In general, the subject of emotions is terribly hard because it is subjective. It's hard to give any advice, because it's not logical and it's not something we can change at the snap of our fingers, but there are things we can do that I recommend doing, and that just might help us get over it faster. Let me start by saying that a big problem is how the environment, how social media, how television, how the world in general approaches this subject, how it perceives it, and how it teaches us to react to such things. Because you have to take into account that when we watch some videos, they just mess with our heads about how things should really be. We have this strange conviction that some things we have to do because otherwise we are bad people, or we have no heart. This is the case with both breakups, as well as with bereavement, marriage, and so on. And we are just taught that we have to suffer, we have to experience unknown things, it has to take unknown amounts of time for us to recover. In fact, this can be significantly curtailed. It all depends on how hard you have instilled the program in you over the years by the media. Because why should it be so? I don't understand who sets the limit. 2 weeks is not enough, but 2 months is fine. This is an illusion of the system, and you can recover yourself after breaking up within a few days. It's already going to depend a lot on the person and how emotionally they approach it. As for breakups, I will try to describe in a few points what you can do and what you definitely should not do. So the first point is to take it all logically. Take out a piece of paper, write down for yourself the pluses of this situation in which we found ourselves. This is very important and very effective because it will allow us to look at the subject from a different perspective. It will allow us to look at the subject of separation from a positive perspective. Because let's not kid ourselves. We choose to be in a relationship with someone because, first of all, we feel something for that person. And secondly, we feel that we will be better off with someone than alone. But it doesn't always work out that way, and in addition, our partner always limits us in any way. So the first thing I would do is write out the pluses of the fact that we have separated, that we have become singles, so certainly such a plus is that we have more free time and can use it differently. A plus is that we can do things for ourselves that we couldn't afford to do before. And if you sit down to really think about it for half an hour, you will find more such pluses than you think. Still considering that in parting with someone, there was some reason for it, so something that person from our life either took away or didn't give us something we wanted. So I would try to find that too and write it out for myself. The second thing I would recommend doing is meeting the opposite sex. I don't mean dating because, on the one hand, it can help, but it can also hurt. What I mean is that we shouldn't just close ourselves off to the fact that acquaintance with the opposite sex must always lead to something more than camaraderie. In general, in relationships, there shouldn't be such a thing as a guy only meets guys and a woman only meets women and they don't have any male-female relations on another level. There are relationships like this, and this is a bit pathological. We live in a society where there are both men and women are equal. We have contact with them whether at work or anywhere, so we shouldn't forcefully limit it for some strange reason. Another third point is to realize certain issues. If the breakup was due to our mistake, then we need to think about whether there is something to improve in us. That is, whether we can change something, whether we can become better people, because it will be a lesson for us after all. I did something wrong, so I can improve it so that in the next relationship it will be better, or even try to get back together, because this sometimes happens. But here it is very dependent primarily on feelings. And here we will no longer force anyone to feel something more for us, because it is impossible. Feelings are there, and it's hard to describe them, but it's impossible to control them too much. We simply either care about someone or we don't. If one person no longer cares, we can't force them to be otherwise. Because even being perfect, even if we can change, it still may not be enough. Forcing someone to do so is selfish, even stupid, pointless, and is just a waste of time. So if the reason for the breakup was that someone no longer cared, then it's good that you parted ways, because there was no point in dragging it out, and you also need to approach it that way. That is, the person who parted with me started to stop caring, so look at it purely logically. Such a person did us a favor. If my ex did something unforgivable, did something wrong, I felt horrible because of it, and now I don't have a person who hurts me. That's great because I'm free from it. With this approach, it's much easier later to connect emotions precisely with thoughts. If we think positively and logically about it, then eventually, emotions will also follow. In fact, separation is the easiest thing in all of this. The hardest thing is just getting to that parting. The hardest usually are the last days, weeks, months of this constant struggle and frustration, because people have this problem not only in relationships, but also in work, in life, that they get used to the current situation and are afraid of something new, afraid to take risks. Many people are stuck in toxic relationships because they know their relationship, and even though they are not happy, they know what to expect. They are unlikely to be surprised by anything, so they are stuck in it, even though they know that he can be more happy in a different relationship. And then it's the hardest thing to make that decision. Because on the one hand, we just know our relationship and don't want to take a risk, we're afraid it could get worse. On the other hand, there's the problem that we don't know when there's that moment when we can say that I've already done everything I can, it doesn't make any more sense. I can let go, because this is also a fight with ourselves. Unfortunately, it happens very often in relationships, so that there is physical and psychological violence, that with each subsequent incident, we put the boundaries further, we forgive more and more. We convince ourselves more that it is a good decision to be with someone. And it's the same in a normal relationship, that the longer we are with someone, even when everything is fine, we convince ourselves more and more that it's not the worst. Overall, there is no tragedy. I've been with this person for so many years and it would be stupid to let go like this. This will come from the fact that I will deny myself, that since I have been with this person for so many years, well, the partner cannot change overnight. So, this decision is much more difficult than the breakup itself. The breakup itself is a small thing, but that's what you need to approach it sensibly, because it's not a sign of love that someone misses someone for 6 months, thinks about it, and can't move on, but just lives in the past all the time. And this is the mistake that many people make. This is not a sign of love, but it is a sign of weakness. It's not a weakness that being in a relationship will cure, because it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, that being in a relationship will make us happy and being single will kill us. Well, no. In general, if someone gets into a relationship just to prove themselves, well, they already have a problem in the first place. That relationship can't work out if we are with someone to make that person happy. We are with someone so that this person will possibly help us fulfill ourselves, so that we can share this happiness we already have with someone we care about, and not that this person should give us a reason to be happy at all. We also need the realization that relationships are difficult and that it's not all that easy to build something that will work for years. When there is another breakup, when there is another failed attempt, the suffering then, one could say, has more of a form of material fatigue, such doubt, lack of trust in the other party, and faith that we will be able to build something lasting someday. It is also very often the case that this suffering is related to the perception of ourselves. That is, we begin to doubt that we are capable of building something that will survive any crises. In order to feel good about ourselves again, we actually have to do some hard work to find ourselves once again alone, because we've forgotten what it was like when we were single, to prove to ourselves that we love ourselves unconditionally, that we believe in ourselves, that we can do it, and we actually become ultimately stronger through it all. Sometimes we need to get a kick out of life in order to wake up and look at our life holistically in a different way. I invite you to the next section. If you liked the material, leave a like and send it to a friend or someone close to you who may benefit from this knowledge. If you want to support our work and help us create more valuable videos, there is a link in the description.